5 hours of delays in San Francisco to make it here for this event. So, yeah, that's right. So John, I'll start with John because he's the man of the hour. John, he's the VP of Business Development for Sky Media in the UK. So John is Sky's man in the streets here in the US, who looks for innovation, works with startups, looks for new investment opportunities. And I've known John now for about a year and a half, and I was fortunate to have worked with Sky a little bit on one of the investments they made into one of the leading OTT video platforms or services, Whistle Sports. And it's a great team over there, so John, thank you very much for being part of it. And the reason why John's on this panel is because Sky's made some interesting moves in the space. Next to me, Ted Schilowitz, and Ted, whom I just met, but I've heard great things about now for quite some time. Ted is the futurist at 20th Century Fox, not 21st, still 20. Yeah, 20th Century Fox. So the futurist. So Ted can help make sense of all of this that's going on in the space. And we're going to ask you really hard questions. And then Sam Englebardt, all the way to the other side. Sam and I had met actually about a year ago, and he is the Chief Strategy Officer for a company called The Void. And how many people here have heard of The Void? Okay, a few. Well, so The Void, and we're pretty close to the overall space. The Void is one of the most buzzed about companies in the VR space. A very different take on VR. This is in the location-based entertainment, so out of home with, and he'll talk about it. I won't say any more than that. So, because we have a heavy content-driven crowd here in Los Angeles, I'm going to first open it up to you, Ted, and just ask you the 60,000-foot question of VR and AR. What does that mean to or should it mean to the media and entertainment business, and how should those companies think about the opportunity? That's a nice, small, little question.
Yeah, you hear me? Okay. So I guess for this crowd, what I would probably say, because I get this question a lot, I have to think of a new creative answer each time, is how far do you want to cast your line into the future? How far can you see where that line could potentially go? And what kind of risk dynamics do you center around that?
Okay. So I'll bound it this way. One of the studies that I've seen from DigiCapital scopes out the overall VR AR market opportunity at about $150 billion by 2020, whatever that means. And they say that AR is about 4 to 1 in terms of the size of the ultimate market opportunity. Do you think the overall, for the media and entertainment space, is this something that's more fluff than reality, or do you believe that this is going to be transformative?
Well, I absolutely believe it's transformative. It's already becoming transformative. The dollars and cents of it all, I think, are people that make their living to predict upside and have a vested interest in finding ridiculous upside. So I don't think that the upside will be that robust or that fast, but I think it is absolutely going to happen. And from my perspective, as this crazy job that I have at Fox being a futurist, more than anything, I'm actually a pastist. I actually reflect into the past to be able to mirror what the future can look like. So I'll ask sort of the audience this question about what the future of media could look like to them. And it's a pretty basic question. How many of you still use a CRT monitor at work or at home? Anybody? No. You use a little shard of glass that reflects itself as either a mobile phone or a laptop or a tablet. And do you believe that that is the last designed level of technology and implementation that will ever be? And if you understand the fact that you no longer use a CRT television or a CRT computer monitor, you will understand that the technology you all have in your pockets today and sitting on your desks or wherever you travel with will not be the technology that will move into the future.
So how should the media, let's talk about the big guys first, the big, like the Foxes of the world. How do you and how should the major media companies think about this opportunity, and what kind of steps are you, I'll talk about Fox first, are you actually taking to seize or get positioned in the right way to be able to seize that opportunity?
Sure. So you have to have a very exploratory stance. You have to have an understanding, a deep, well-defined understanding that you're playing in the what if and you're playing in the maybe. The only thing that's guaranteed is that technology will continue to change and will change robustly. And the next sort of predictor as to where it goes out of our pockets when it gets logical and nimble enough to wear it, which we're not there yet, but we're getting there, as you can see in the back of the room. In the future, you will not be wearing boxes on your face. That's a short-term dynamic.
What will it look like?
It'll look much more like glasses, glassware, and then eventually it won't look like anything. It'll either be something you'll tap onto the side of your head, or it'll be embedded, or it'll be something that lives inside a room that becomes a smart room. This environment could become a very smart environment. It's pretty smart already, but it could become much, much smarter in the future.
So how experimental is Fox allowing you to be? How much are they really investing from a strategic standpoint and prioritizing?
Quite a bit. The way I best describe it is they give me a really, really wide noose to hang myself. Like I get a lot of leeway to keep this rope around my neck, but it keeps getting tighter and tighter and tighter as time goes on.
How do you improve yourself?
By driving towards innovation. So the entity that we have that I essentially work with and for is something called the Fox Innovation Lab, and it is really a lab. So when people ask what I really do for a living, I'm a glorified lab rat. I basically experiment with what the future can be, might be, and eventually will be, and try and define that, and try and help it nurse it along. So we've done a couple of interesting projects. The most valuable to sort of talk about now, because it's just on the cusp of being released into the world, is this Martian Pr Project that a lot of people have seen within the industry. It's one of the most...
it's got some great press.
It's gotten a lot of good press, and it's gotten a lot of good awareness, but it's extraordinarily ambitious and extraordinarily robust. You're almost in this experience for 30 minutes, which is way more than any sort of marketing PR sort of gimmick or stunt, which is a couple of minutes in VR, and you look at something and go, that's kind of cool. This is actually a real storytelling journey in VR, and it's the first of many things that we're working on. So we have a team that's pretty robust working on this stuff, funding that's fairly robust and nimble that actually allows us to test with these things and experiment with these things. But you also have to kind of have this pretty good understanding that we don't really know where it's going to go. We just know it's going to go somewhere. We're not staying in place. So to try and get ahead of it, you have to do things.
You have to take action, which gets back to the theme of this whole night, which is fearless, which I always talk about. You have to be in the game. Yeah, you have to be in the game. And then before I move on to Sky, but how do you measure success with what you do? When you're reporting out to the team, what are they looking for in terms of actual metrics of success?
So right now, I guess it's multi-tier, right? They're looking for what kind of impact does our little group at the Innovation Lab create in an awareness bubble. That Fox is pretty forward-thinking, that we're not leaning back, we're leaning forward into the future of what media can be. And if you look at all the different divisions of Fox and all the things that they do, so you have filmed entertainment, you have news, you have sports, you have interactive, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The idea is how many of those groups can we touch in a very kind of unified way to say, let's think about the future together as an entity, not as 5 different separate groups. So we do that, and we've been pretty successful at that. Yeah. There's a lot of experiments that are happening all across different forms of media, whether that's game engine style entertainment, live action sports, live action, different things, news, and there's of course National Geographic, which is under the Fox umbrella. There's a lot of things that are happening, right? So in terms of where it all goes and how much sort of leeway do they give us, they're looking for success both from a maybe someday this should make a lot of money if we get into it early enough and become the leader rather than the follower.
Which is the right way to think about it. So thank you. Let's go to Sky. So same kind of question. What are some of the initiatives that Sky is focusing on? Maybe start with the investments that you've made in the space so far, John.
Well, actually, it's a good point. The whole VR story for us started with an investment. So we invested in Jawn, way back when this was just a little incubated company in Silicon Valley. And
the first small round of $35 million.
It was pretty small. It was pretty small. I mean, we did it as an insight. We thought, hang on a second, this could be big and interesting. At the time, it was really just an experiment around 360 video. And I think what that's given us is an enormous advantage to sort of experiment. So we started with the Jawn cameras. We were filming dramas, we were trying out different sporting events, seeing how that worked. And kind of over time, because Sky is Europe's biggest investor in content, not only buying it, distributing it, but actually making it. So we make dramas, about 100 dramas in development at the moment. So there's a kind of real capability there to actually put things into practice, as well as push them to 23 million customers around Europe. So I think the first thing was the investment, and then over time we kind of started experimenting with sports and drama, and then we thought, we've got enough here to create a studio. So about in March, we created a VR content studio where we brought together a team of about 10, making across the genres of Sky. And I think that's kind of the unique thing that we've tried to do, is to go, well, we've no idea which genre is going to really work. So we need to be doing it in movies, in arts, in sports, in news, and see which works. And I think after about 2 or 3 months, we thought, we've almost got enough here for customers. And so about 3 weeks ago, we launched an app where we brought together, the best of our stuff that we filmed, some stuff we've commissioned from small studios, and then the best of what we've seen out here that I've kind of come across over the last.
And you got a big star to be in it.
David Beckham. Yeah. Well, we thought the best way of bringing this to customers is to say, we filmed all these great sporting events. Let's bring them together with him as kind of the guide, so he guides you around them. And I think one of the best early things we've seen is that things like boxing are just incredible in VR. And even though it's just 360 at the moment, it's not interactive, it's not positional, what you feel is not only that you're close to the action, but you're close to the fans as well. And I think it's that combination of the atmosphere and the sort of the fighting. And seeing these positions that we haven't seen before. Just this weekend we were doing some experimentation with Manchester United and Chelsea in football. We were just trying to find viewpoints that you've never seen before. So, the tunnel. What's the view from different positions around the side of the pitch? I think for us it's still experimentation, but we think it's experimentation that we can actually get customers to see, and if we're early enough, we'll get a flavour of which of this is working and how should we take it forward.
By the way, just one thing that you mentioned, just the feeling of what it's like to be in the boxing match itself. I don't know if too many people really understand it, but VR is not, when it's fully immersive, it's not a visual experience, it is a physiological, it is an emotional experience. And so it's a very different sort of animal than anything in the traditional media side.
I think that's right, and actually I think one of the surprising things, I think initially we thought, what's going to be great here is news. And actually, John Riley, who runs Sky News, is on the board of John's, and so he's been very interested from the beginning. The challenge with news is it's all about feeling empathetic with VR, but being in an Ebola clinic in Africa, that's almost too empathetic. It's almost overwhelming. And so I think one of the things we're trying to work out is, okay, this has got to be comfortable storytelling.
So let's talk about, it's Halloween time, so just on that note, I know that YouTube is involved in some of this too, creating immersive horror experience with Blumhouse, and then you can imagine taking it even further, Call of Duty, something that's getting very deep into full sensory. Do you have those conversations at Sky about implications?
I think we do. I think we certainly found that the big wins up front have been some sports and drama, for sure. I think because drama, you've got there's a license to have a very different experience. You're already, when you're sitting down to drama, you're already in that kind of mindset. So I think there's a sort of more of a willingness to kind of try something completely new. What we have done is a mixture, though, of our existing dramas that we're producing one called Britannia, co-production with Amazon, it will be out next year here. And we thought, well, it's all about Roman army in Scotland, coming up to Scotland, taking over a kind of Celtic tribe, right? And the bit we filmed was basically a ceremony, a kind of sacrificial ceremony in the round, in a kind of like Stonehenge-like space. The great advantage of that is, of course, whichever way you look, you see some great action, 300 extras, it's incredibly immersive. But we've already found that, again, that can feel a little overwhelming. So, we've had to work out the best, how close to the action you want to get. You want to get close, but you also need to sort of not make this a terrifying experience, because a lot of the customers that we have are people who may not have, an Oculus Rift or a Vive in the house. They're trying this on on cardboard, on Daydream when it's up and running. So we're kind of in that road of experimentation.
And then from a director, how do you direct that? You know, how do you direct fully immersive 360 experiences? And then how do you call attention to the experience you want from the person who's experiencing it all?
I think that's right. I think Ted will have a lot of experience of this as well, but we definitely found that, the bad VR experiences that there are where people have been positioned, way out of the way. The main camera here is over here that we normally have, and this is kind of over here. You need to have a director who's willing to put this front and center and properly experiment with it, and not everyone's like that. So that's one of the things we'd be looking for is, who are the big, whether it's Hollywood or drama or whatever, or even sports, who's going to really be happy for this to be at the center of the experience.
So what's the big win for you?
I think it's definitely been some of the sporting events we've done so far. I think that's the stuff that's really captivated people. I think the challenge with that obviously is that the long-term goal would be live. You're seeing that live. Right now, with the headsets as they are you willing to sit through a whole experience like that? Our early experiments with a couple of companies doing this is that it's maybe a little too early for that. So I think for now it's the highlights, it's short best of moments.
How long will it be until we're watching an NFL game and we're actually on the field? Not watching, but experiencing that.
I don't think it'll be long. I don't know what you think.
It won't be that long, but the capture technology needs to advance one more step forward, and the viewing technology needs to advance one more step forward. So we're actually we made an investment in a company in your hometown in San Francisco that's doing next-gen optics called OEG that will actually take it to a new place, that actually takes it to the fidelity that's required visually to actually sell that sporting experience. What happens now with the headsets, based on the fidelity that they exist now, is anytime the camera is trying to capture anything more than 10 feet away, 7 feet away, it sort of turns into mush. And it's not because of the cameras, it's because of the viewing phase. So there are sort of fairly limited sporting events that actually can carry the whole sporting event that way, which is why highlights make sense and little clips make sense. But this is a short-term problem. This is just the beginnings of something that's becoming mass consumer and mass adoption. And as there's more investment and as there's more technology that moves into the fore, which we're very heavily involved in, it's sort of the secret part of our world. We don't see this as a problem at all. We just see this as a state in time where we're sitting today that will be very easily resolved by technology that's already being worked on.
Just to say one more thing is, we definitely, from an investment perspective, we definitely see this as a strategic thing. This could be the future of television, quite likely to be in some form. But I think we see it moving so fast that we're in terms of placing bets. One of the bets we placed is actually John Goldman, who's over here, right over there. Investing. Yeah, well, of course, John. What's going on you?
Well, at the end of the night, we'll mention everybody by name.
We invested in his fund, who's looking at a combination of esports, VR, and gaming, because not only, as we've discussed, gaming is quite similar. Well, there's the challenges of gaming and the challenges of VR as things become more interactive, coming together. But I think we also just think this is moving so fast. We want to have a view of a lot of stuff and then see down the line.
Smart, very smart. Sam?
I'm just maybe a little less bullish about watching sports at home, and mainly because I feel like people have to stop thinking of sports as such a group activity to really get into the in-home VR. At least I would believe AR at some level. Do you augment sports with with some multiple screen experience or something? Maybe. But the VR experience of sports in the home and the idea that you're going to wear it for a long time in your home. So do you see people leaving on watching these?
Well, so here's the question:
videos?
if you have a group of friends that are all over the planet, and you like to watch sports with them, and maybe you gather and you go to an NFL game once a year, and you all gather and drink your beer together and you hang out together. If you could do that every week, knowing that you're all disparate, you're all around the world, and you could connect socially with those people, initially via avatars, and then eventually via photorealistic scans, and eventually via just like this, here we are sitting, but you're in Tokyo, you're in Iowa, and I'm in LA, here we all are, and we're watching the game. We're not just watching a rectangle of the game, we're kind of feeling like we're at the game, or we could all choose where we want to go. The virtual reality of social, so if you kind of connect to the YouTube environment, the Facebook environment, their bets and their investments are not just about individualized content, they're about connected social experiences via content that is already happening in the gaming world. There are people all around the world, typically younger than this audience, that have friends all around the world that they've never seen or connected with in person. That they're connected with on Xbox Live, they're connected with on their PlayStation Network. They are close friends. They are connected through their technology. And they play games every night together. And if that happens, then Mark Zuckerberg's the smartest guy in the planet.
Who's in on that experience? Yeah? Watching sports or experiencing sports with your buddies like that? Okay. A few.
I think we do that now with our phone or the second screen. We have that problem.
We
solved.
share via text moments.
Yeah, absolutely, and we engage, and it doesn't require us to remove the connectivity we have with our family around us. Gaming, I think, is a very different thing.
Well, that's where AR starts to play in, because AR, do you guys know the difference in AR and VR
Good
enough?
point. I think
So AR allows you to bring as much of the quote-unquote real world, and who knows how much of this is even real, just ask Elon Musk what he thinks. And you can essentially choose. So the reason why, you're making this point about that there's a predictor from a lot of big companies, the Google world, the Apple world, all the big sort of titans of industry, that AR will be bigger than VR. It's a very simple reason. It's because AR can easily be VR. It's just a matter of how much you include from the outside world. But VR is hard to be AR because it's a box on your face today, except if you've got an outbound camera, which only gets you so far. So in the world of VR, we could be in this environment, and I could, sort of like that. If that giant thing, that giant monitor behind me, was something that was totally virtual, that I didn't have to spend who knows how much that cost, probably $500,000, right?
that's nothing for
YouTube's fine. But if I had glasses that could create that illusion of that, and I could be in this environment together and watch my sporting event as a group, and I could wear that, and it was a consumer level device, the world changes. Yeah. That's the next step.
Well, an important reason for that is because VR, at least as it is today, is not the most social experience. And that, Sam, that gets to something that you and the Void have dealt with in a very interesting way. So why don't you tell everybody about the Void?
Sure. So at the Void, we're building immersive experiences using VR and other technology and their experiences for out of home. So you come to a Void stage, and it looks from the top down, it looks like a sort of a human maze of hallways and rooms, and we envelop that maze in motion capture tracking, and you put on a headset and a backpack with a VR optimized computer, and you walk through this stage that we've created, and you have a 10-minute at the moment experience, and what we've done is layered over this physical environment that we built with whichever content sort of experience we want you to have. So you'll come and spend 10 minutes exploring an Indiana Jones style Forbidden Temple and solving puzzles. You come and have an immersive and terrifying, haunted house experience. We built with Sony this summer and launched a Ghostbusters experience where with 3 of your friends you go through an old haunted house as a Ghostbuster with your friends, killing ghosts and having an adventure.
And you're untethered when you're doing it.
Completely untethered. Yeah, the backpack computer is important because that's powering the VR headset that you have on your head, and you're free to move around. And we're tracking you with kind of sub-millimeter accuracy, so you can, if you reach out and if there's a wall in front of you and touch the wall, you'll feel the wall. If you want to pick up objects that exist in the space, you can pick them up, you can pass them around to your friends, and you're seeing the people that you're in the experience with as avatars, which they can customize and create to represent themselves in however they want. And so you're having a shared experience in this space together, while also having an individualized experience inside of the VR headset.
And mention the size of that market opportunity, because we're talking about disrupting, impacting the theme park market, location-based entertainment. So this is a massive space that we're talking about.
Yeah, and I think we're talking about disrupting it to some extent. I think we're also talking about assisting it in a way that it really needs right now. I mean, I come primarily from the out-of-home entertainment movie theater business, and built and sold a couple movie theaters, primarily because I really thought that the movie theater business, it's happening maybe a little slower than I thought at the time, but to some extent is in secular decline for watching films, or at least filmed entertainment the way we used to do it. I think the shopping mall business, to the extent you're talking about retail shopping, is in secular decline. I think there's a lot of out-of-home environments that need something that's going to draw people to come out and have an experience. And so I don't think we're disrupting movie theaters. I think, and in fact, we're working with cinema chains and theme parks and other existing location-based entertainment venues just to help bring them into the 21st century.
And this is what the Imagineers are focusing on themselves too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And really quickly, and then we have to wind it up, but go ahead.
Yeah, I think what you're doing is, I think, fascinating. It's also the merger of that kind of theme park experience and narrative, I think, is really interesting. So one of the pieces we're just about to start filming is in Tutankhamun's tomb. Next to it is Queen Nefertiti's tomb, right? And they think it's there, and they're excavating it now. We've got permission to film it. And we're kind of thinking about this, how are we going to make this sort of future-proof if everything's going to become more interactive? So we're actually thinking about how we can capture all the points in that room once it is excavated. And then think, okay, you could pick up that object, you could do that socially, and it could actually sit in an experience much like yours, or on a Vive or an Oculus.
Okay, so lightning round. Big VR or immersive story for 2017? Well, first I'll ask, do you think that Pokemon Go was a big deal from the development of this space? It was. It was a wake-up call, don't you think?
Yes, but it wasn't the first. There's something that is just slightly under the surface that many millions of people know all about called geocaching. If you don't know what geocaching is, do a little research on geocaching. It's the predecessors of Pokemon Go. It's a worldwide scavenger hunt. It's just as virally successful as Pokemon Go, just one order of magnitude less because they didn't have Pokemon IP to play with. But that's the story of Pokemon.
Okay, that's our homework. Okay, big story, 2017. Make your bold prediction.
You go first. What do you think?
Anyone? Lightning round.
Well, I'm very excited about PlayStation and where that's going to go. And that for me is seeing it, that's the thing I'm really looking at.
I guess I would say 2017 is not that big a deal for me, but 2025 is a really big deal for me. We're curving, and it's not 2020, it's 2025. We're curving into a few more cycles of technology, GPU technology, CPU technology, the logic of how well formed the next generation of everything will go, and it will take a little more time than everybody thinks to actually get it there, but when it gets there, you will remember before and after as big as when everything in the world was black and white in terms of media, and then we discovered color, and the world moved to color.
Yeah.
It's that big of a change, but it's going to take more than the next year to accomplish that goal.
I think it's going to need a big content hit. I think actually that's really the devices like PlayStation are interesting, but it needs the sort of avatar of VR. The moment that people go, wow, actually this is a fundamentally different experience, and I don't think we've quite seen that yet.
I don't think we'll see it in 2017. I was going to say, I think the big news of 2017 is going to be more that VR isn't as big as people thought it was going to be, or as the wave of investments made it out to be. And then, so we're going to see this lull for a little while, and I think we're going to see a really remarkable change coming up. And I was going to say about Pokemon Go, I actually think the most important news about Pokemon Go is not how big it got at the peak, but how quickly it became irrelevant. I mean, that's a really important lesson, I think, for everybody, because, the thing was gone before, right around the time we all started to think it was important, it was non-existent. And I think we can learn a lot from that.
All right, everybody. So thank you very much to this panel. Appreciate it. Great job. Thank you very much.